Have you ever considered that your diet could contribute to pollution? Every year, packing houses and restaurants create over 70 billion pounds of meat and vegetable byproducts. That's a lot of material that could go to waste if not recycled. The good news is that these cast-offs can be processed into all sorts of products we use every day, like nutrients for animals, plastics, lubricants, and renewable energy. It's called rendering, and it's the world's oldest form of recycling.
Rendering begins with the collection of meat-type material at the source, transportation back to a rendering plant, where the meat goes through a thermal process or cooker. These materials are high moisture, and so we evaporate the water with the heat. We collect the water, condense it, and then treat it and discharge it according to state, federal, or local requirements.
Darling International has been ahead of the curve in recycling for more than a century. As the country's largest rendering company, Darling has turned unused waste into usable commercial products since 1882. Darling was green when green was just a color.
After we're through processing the material, the fat that's separated out can go to a number of different end users that range from biofuels, which is receiving a lot of attention today. Also, the fat or tallow can be used in animal feed as a source of energy, or it can go to further processing in the oleochemical industry, products ranging from lubricants and paints, almost anything that's fat-based.
Rendering provides essential services to society by offering the most sanitary and eco-friendly way to dispose of the massive amount of meat and vegetable byproducts produced every year. Without rendering, our landfills could be overflowing in just a few short years and pose a major health hazard. Other disposal options just don't stack up to rendering.
Compared to burial and incineration, rendering is a recycling industry, and so these materials are put back into useful uses rather than just being disposed of or emitting carbon and nitrogen and other materials into the atmosphere as with incineration. Composting these materials is very difficult, and it can be done, but it takes considerable capital investment to be able to control water runoff issues, insects and pests and other problems associated with it. So rendering is probably the best control technology we have for handling these materials.
For centuries, people have rendered animal fats for candles or soaps. As technology has changed, so have the uses for rendered material. The proteins derived from the waste are a source of essential nutrients for animals. The fats can be made into plastics, tires, jet fuel, and most exciting of all, renewable energy. It's this new use for rendered products that is capturing the headlines all over the world.
Rendered fats are the perfect feedstock for the production of alternative fuels. They're sustainable, they're recyclable, and they're the lowest cost feedstock available in the world. Biofuels won't necessarily cure us of our dependence on foreign oil, but they're part of a solution, or a portfolio of solutions that will help cure us of that dependence.
It may be the oldest form of recycling, but rendering has become a valuable component of today's economy. Working with government agencies, Darling and the rendering industry have been the established gatekeeper of food safety and the environment for decades.
For 125 years, Darling International has performed an essential service to the nation's food industry. Every day, we collect, transport, and recycle millions of pounds of unwanted food waste into saleable items.
Darling International is researching new uses for its recycled products, like biofuels and power generation. As the world searches for alternate sources of energy, Darling has quietly emerged as a leading source of these promising products.
As society becomes more aware and concerned about recycling and environmental issues, companies like Darling will play an essential role in meeting those goals, because we are a recycling company. We recycle things like carbon, nitrogen, and phosphorus, so they're not left into the environment to contribute to environmental pollution or greenhouse gas production.
The same critical services that Darling provides to the meatpacking industry is also provided to the nation's restaurant industry. Using specialized equipment to collect and remove used cooking oil from restaurants, Darling transports it to one of their nationwide facilities where 100% of the used oil is converted into reusable materials.
Used cooking oil is that material that's used in the food generation process in the restaurant. When the restaurants use that oil up, they take it out and put it in a Darling-owned container. Darling, on a service cycle, comes by and picks that material up. We return it to one of our processing plants where we refine it and turn it into a usable product that's sold as a commodity on the open market.
Another essential service provided by Darling to the restaurant industry is the cleaning of grease traps.
A grease trap collects all the wastewater out of a restaurant. It's intended to allow the grease to separate, allow the food solids to separate, and then the water is discharged out of the grease trap into the sanitary sewer system. Periodically, that material has to be removed from the grease trap and allow it to function properly.
In an effort to ensure that a community's sewer system is functioning properly, regulations have been enacted requiring restaurants to maintain their grease traps on a scheduled basis. Darling's trained personnel routinely clean and service grease traps to ensure they remain in regulatory compliance and avoid costly fines or downtime.
Darling Restaurant Services allows a restaurant to turn what would otherwise be a waste material, the used cooking oil, into a recyclable product, helping them to go green.
For 125 years, Darling International has produced fat and protein products through its traditional rendering process, which are used worldwide by a variety of manufacturers and industries. Darling also participates in industry, government, and university research projects to develop new and innovative applications for its recycled material.
At Darling International, we're going to keep doing what we've been doing for the last 125 years. We're going to work hand in hand with our customers to find effective recycling solutions for their food waste byproducts.
Darling International was a green company long before being green was trendy. Going forward, Darling will use its reputation as a leading renderer to develop sustainable recycling solutions that will help save our planet. If you're in the restaurant industry and would like more information about Darling's recycling services, visit darlingii.com.